Welcome back to hour number 2 of What Bills Live. We're presented by Colada Health, coming to you from our home, as we always do now. And joining us live on the line right now, ESPN's NFL college draft analyst, Mel Kiper Jr. He's been with ESPN since 1984. He's the host of their First Draft podcast. Hello, Mel Kiper. John Murphy, Steve Tasker up here in Buffalo. Thanks for coming on with us today.
John, Steve, great to be with you guys.
Hey, you did a draft 2 weeks ago without your buddy Todd McShay, hit by the coronavirus himself. How is he doing, and how much did you miss him during the broadcast that weekend?
Yeah, thankfully doing a little better. I mean, Todd had, prepared as thoroughly as ever and was ready to go. And I had spoken to him, that Saturday before the draft, and he was making a little bit of progress. But with this virus, you feel good and you think you're coming back, then it hits you again. So I think that's what happened with Todd. But, it's just a shame when you do all that work. But, hey, as long as he's healthy, he's getting healthy, that's all you care about. And you get through it. And it was a challenging draft for everybody just because of, just staring at a camera and not having that interaction on a set. But got through it. The NFL got through it with no glitches and no issues, and that's for that 1 year where we had a lot more important things going on in this world than preparing for a draft. It did come off without any glitches.
Yeah, for as much as you guys worked hard at it and had so much to do, this was an added burden. Although you did it from home, there's still a lot going on, but it seemed, as you mentioned, this draft broadcast went really smoothly. Was there anything that you guys at the networks and the broadcast partners learned that you might take going forward?
See, that's a good question. I think, just the way you interact, we're forced to do things with using names, which I always tend to do when I'm talking anyway. That's how Todd came about, because he told Frank Caliendo, well, he says my name more than anybody. So Frank exaggerated to make the Todd thing. So I always tend to do that anyway. But when you know, and you know this, Steve, as well as anybody, when you're told, okay, throw it to somebody while you're talking, you get to the end, sometimes you forget because you're so wrapped up in what you're saying. Sometimes you say it a little too early and they don't pick up. So the communication when you're at a set, eye contact, hand gesture, everything that you do to let somebody know, hey, I want to follow up. I have a different opinion. I want to argue this point a little stronger, whatever it may be. We couldn't do that. So even Daniel Jeremiah said it was kind of like doing little speeches, mini speeches. That's what we all kind of did. So it was totally different. But, hey, for 1 year, and hopefully that's the only year you have to do this, it was something that worked okay, but it's not the preferable situation because obviously being at a set allows you opportunities to do things more conversationally than we were allowed to do.
With Mel Kiper Jr., ESPN's NFL draft expert. Hey, Mel, did you see or do you suspect that any picks were made but with teams not fully knowing what they were getting into? Were teams less willing to take risks, do you think, based on the lack of pre-draft visits, the 30 visits they have? Did you see any evidence of that?
Yeah, I did. I think two things happened. I think the combine workout guys who didn't run well. Examples, Xavier McKinney, 4.63. First-round caliber player goes in the second round to the Giants. Cameron Dantzler was a first-round caliber corner, ran 4.64, drops down the board, third round. So I think the non-combine guys as well that normally had pro days to turn heads and get attention didn't have that opportunity. So they were impacted by it. A guy like Luke Barku had a great year at San Diego State, a corner. But he didn't get that invited to the combine, surprisingly, and the pro day didn't happen. So all of a sudden, there's Luke Barku signing as an undrafted free agent instead of being a fifth-round pick. Things like that happened. In terms of injuries, Jalen Johnson with the shoulder issue didn't get drafted. Normally, he probably would have been a late one. Other corners got forced in there that may have been a little healthier. So, again, I think the injured guys got hit a little hard. A.J. Epinesa didn't run well at the pro day. He ended up being the second-round pick. A lot of people thought first round going into the whole draft process. I did as well. So I think those kind of guys got hurt by it more than anybody. And then, of course, the injured players as well with not having the medical rechecks.
Well, of the guys that were taken, what were your biggest takeaways?
I think teams more than when you go back, I gave a lot of B's, and a couple ones that the head scratcher was probably Green Bay. The biggest head scratcher was Green Bay not taking a receiver when you had the Eagles take 3, and you saw what happened. Even Buffalo, they bring in Stephon Diggs, yet they still draft 2 receivers. The Raiders drafted 3. Minnesota drafted a couple. Everybody was drafted and taking advantage of the strength. And here's a team with the major need being wide receiver. You take Aaron Rodgers, their parent, and you don't get him a receiver except a tight end. So again, I think that was the big surprise there. But everybody else, overall, I think they solidified needs. They did pretty well. We'll see how it all comes together without obviously having this benefit of getting ready for the season in a normal way. How much impact, if we do have a season, what type of season, how much is this impacting these rookies' ability to be contributors their first year?
Hey, Mel, before we dig into the Bills draft, one more overview question about the 2020 NFL draft.
Sure.
Do you think years from now people will look back on the 2020 draft and say that was a receiver draft? They talked pre-draft about all the good receivers, first-round caliber receivers lasting into the third. Are we going to look back on that and say that was where all these good receivers came from that year?
You would think, and I say that you would think, depending upon whether a K.J. Hamler develops him with Denver into a consistent player, whether a Chase Claypool in Pittsburgh, eliminates the drops. There are some things that have to come together. How quickly the Baylor receiver Denzel Mims with the Jets emerges in terms of route running and being precise and disciplined, which at Baylor, obviously, you run around, do different things without the route tree. So I think all these receivers are something that with maybe 4 or 5 of the ones that went in the first 3 rounds that they have to come together with and really improve upon. But I think you're right. I think maybe the guys that we thought were the safest already get it. Should be. Jerry Jeudy should be a great player. No question in Denver. Ruggs with the Raiders. You think about what a guy like Justin Jefferson should be with Minnesota. All those guys should do very well. But guys I mentioned that maybe have a question or a concern, if they answer that positively, then we will look back at this draft as the year of the wide receiver.
The Bills went into this draft thinking they had a pretty solid roster anyway, and they were looking for some depth and some guys that could contribute, maybe not in major ways, but certainly consistently. They got Zack Moss in the 3rd round, same place they drafted Devin Singletary the year before, 2 third-round running backs for the Buffalo Bills that looked to be the 1-2 punch for them. How do you see Zack Moss, Devin Singletary working together?
Love that pick. For the same reason. I think you get a productive guy, has some versatility. Obviously, played a lot of football. You want guys that come in that can handle blitz pickup and handle all the things you need. I think in the 3rd round at the 86th pick, a guy that most people in the league that I spoke to before the draft thought he would be a mid to late 2nd round pick to get in where they did. Devin had a great year. Gave him a real spark, was a key element for that playoff run that the Bills had. So, yeah, I think getting the 2 receivers with size will help Josh. I mean, that receiving core now with John Brown, Diggs, and Beasley. Then you add in, Isaiah McKenzie make play, all these different guys and the 2 young kids. Then you get help even in the secondary if Dane Jackson, who had, I thought, a pretty good year overall at Pitt. And then in Epinesa, as you can kick inside, he's got that ability to play over the center guard. He can be outside, inside threat, with that defensive front the way it is right now and after getting Oliver last year. So I thought they did fine. You factor Stephon Diggs into this whole thing because you have to put him in as part of this draft. And all of a sudden, this is a pretty good – I look at this roster, and I love Josh. You know how I feel about Josh Allen. I got to believe that this is going to be a tough team to handle. This Bills team on paper looks like a 12-win team to me.
Mel Kiper Jr. from ESPN live on the line with us. Mel, on the Bills, and you mentioned Zack Moss. You name him as an instant impact player. You think the Bills can use him in goal line situations pretty effectively, at least to begin with, huh?
I do, and I think that's the 2 positions that you get immediate return normally. It's never perfect, but most 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10 times, running backs, give them the ball and let them go. It's the only position where you can be as good as a rookie as you will be in year 4, year 5, if not better as a rookie. As long as you can block. If you can't, but if you can handle that, you're going to get on the field. If you can catch, you can run, you don't fumble, and you block. That will get you on the field, and you'll be able to go and go and go. And we saw it with Devin. If he then, he had that little issue early on with the minor injury, came back from it. Look how he sparked that team, and he fit right in. He didn't look like a rookie at any point in the season. He did not look like a rookie. So, and then same thing with a lot of these running backs. So, I think that will be a key. And also the pass rushers. They step in normally and do a job right away. They put up. So look at that. Max Crosby had 10 sacks. Josh Allen in Jacksonville had 10.5 sacks. All these different guys that there were sack guys coming out got the sack numbers right away. Just pin your ears back and go after the quarterback. So those are the 2 spots, guys, where you normally expect rookies to produce. And even this year, you would expect even more when it's going to be tough for other positions who need time. If we don't have the training camp, we don't have the preseason games, we don't have the build up to the season, then and not the reps that you need, then all of a sudden it may be more important to get the production out of those 2 positions because you may not be getting it out of the other guys.
This Bills draft, you mentioned the Green Bay draft being kind of a head-scratcher, taking Jordan Love. The Bills took a quarterback in Jake Fromm. How do you see him fitting in? The Bills were in a position where they felt like they had enough players and a strong enough roster just to take the best player available, and Jake Fromm, they took him. And what do you think about that pick, given the fact that they think they found their franchise quarterback already?
Yeah, I think in terms of a backup, I think that's what you're looking at. And the guy that has the mindset for it, he's a smart kid, great leader. He gets it. He knows Josh Allen's the franchise, and he'll come in, he'll assist Josh, he'll see things. I said when he's going to be an extension of your offensive coordinator and your quarterback coach. That's what he's going to be. And obviously, if Josh gets hurt, and Josh can play a little reckless. That's the two areas that Josh has to improve on, and you know he will. He knows what he needs to work on. He made huge strides last year from the rookie year to a second year. If he makes those same strides in year 2 to year 3, good luck trying to deal with him. But the deep ball accuracy, just don't airmail it. Just give your guy a chance, because you draw flags when they come back and they stop. The cornerback loses sight. He runs into, all of a sudden you get an easy 50. You make a play, you get a 50-yard completion. When you airmail it, you give your team no shot. You got no shot as a penalty. So Josh will see that and learn from that, and I'm sure they're coaching him up on that. And then they're being reckless and maybe turning it over, subjecting your body to some hits, not getting down quick enough. All those things he'll work on. But certainly having Fromm available for that reason will help. And for Jake, the thing that pushed him to the fifth was just the arm strength. It showed up at the combine in games when his timing and his accuracy was where it needed to be, because he knew. Then 2 years ago, he had all those receivers. He was really good. He lost all those receivers this year, and his numbers went down because he doesn't have that big arm. So I think getting a guy that a lot of people thought was a second-round pick in the fifth round to be a guy one play away from maybe being your guy. I mean, we go back. Remember Don Shula's passing, and I happened to got to know Coach Shula a little bit, and remember in 1972, that 17-0 season, Bob Greasy got hurt. Earl Morrall came in, and Earl Morrall struggled, and then Greasy came back and won. So again, having two quarterbacks, you saw what Foles meant to the Eagles in that Super Bowl. So having a Jake Fromm behind Josh Allen, I thought that was a heck of a pick.
ESPN NFL draft analyst Mel Kiper Jr. on the line with us. Hey, Mel, I want to talk to you. You've already started to look at the 2021 draft, but before we get to that, you've been doing this 36, 37 years. In general, are teams better now at drafting than they were when you started? I mean, there's so much more information involved, so much more video involved now. There's so much more science involved. I wonder, do you think in general teams are better at the draft now than they were when you got started at this in the mid-'80s?
No, I don't. And I think the difference is the game. The game has changed so much where now you can have a guy maybe not emerge as a receiver, but you're playing 4 or 5 receivers. You're getting multiple backs involved. You're getting multiple defensive backs involved. You're getting everybody, guys rotating in pass rush. You're getting everybody. So the bust factor is not what it was before. Remember back in our day, you had a tight end, you had 2 wide receivers. You had a fullback, you had a running back. If you didn't make a move to get that starting job, you were considered a bust, as a first round or second round. Now you're getting all these guys on the field somehow, some way. They're getting on the field just because of the nature of the game. It's changed so dramatically from what it was when I started in 1978. I've been doing it now 42 years. This is my 38th year coming up at ESPN, and it's changed dramatically. You have to adjust to the times, and the game now is not even close to what it was then. That's why I get sick of trying to compare a quarterback from the 80s to a quarterback now. You can't do it. The numbers aren't. These numbers now are going to blow away those numbers from the 80s because 25 passes in a game is 25 passes in a quarter now. So it's a different ball game entirely, guys. As you know, Steve, you've been around it long. You've seen it evolve. So I think now they're drafting the same as they did, except now you see a little bit more of a roster put together via the draft because you're finding ways to incorporate these guys where back then, if they say, you could very easily be considered a bust if you were the 5th receiver because you weren't getting on the field. Now you're getting on the field and you're doing a lot of different things in a reserve capacity that normally you wouldn't have been able to do way back in the 70s and 80s and 90s.
Yeah, the Bills have built through the draft and also through some key free agents. They got a lot of guys signed to 1-year contracts, prove-it deals. Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott have created a culture. They're starting to rise through the ranks of the NFL. They were in the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years. You've said that you think they're the favorite to win the AFC East. How strong is their roster, and how hard is it going to be for some of these draft picks to actually get on the field for a team with a roster full of the guys that the Bills have?
I think it's going to be. I think Moss will have a great opportunity. Epinesa obviously rotating in. The receivers will have a tough time because they already have your John Brown, Diggs, and Beasley, and you got guys that have already been proven entities behind or have contributed, I should say. And then you have the second-year guys. Singletary's going to his second year. Dawson Knox knows he's got to be more consistent. He had a couple drops of catchable balls last year. So again, this roster is strong. This team. The thing that impresses me about the Bills is their chemistry. I don't think any team is the teammates are caring about the other teammates. It's not individuals on this team. They're all about the team being successful, and they got great leadership in that locker room. This is a team, when you watch them, it's a football team as I've seen in a while. And Steve, you've been around great teams. You got to have that. And I see it, whether it's Josh or they got a lot of leaders, they got vocal leaders, they got quiet leaders, they got everything going. You watch them here; they care about one another. They're, like I said, it's not a bunch of individuals, so they got a mix. I mean, Brandon Beane's done a great job getting the right mix of players, and it led to a second-year quarterback taking a team to the playoffs. And they had that game. Looked like they had that game won. Had it not been, I thought, for a couple questionable non-calls, they would have won that game. So even with the things that went awry late. So this is a team that's built for now. It's built for the future. And like I said, I'm excited to see if Josh can take those steps that he made last year to this year. And if he does, then he's going to be one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. He already is close to that now. He's one of the best. He will be one of the best quarterbacks in the league by year 3 if he makes that jump up this year in terms of deep ball accuracy and just taking a little bit better care of the football at times.
Hey, Mel, what did you make of the Patriots draft? And in particular, what did you make of Belichick's post-draft admission, I guess, that he might have been taking a quarterback? It wasn't his plan to go into it and not get a quarterback. What did you make of all that?
Yeah. I don't know what I didn't get. He said it didn't fall right. Well, you could have had Jacob Eason in the 4th round. You took 3 third-round picks, and I get that. Maybe he was waiting until the 5th, and Jacob went in the 4th. Then and Fromm he could have had in the 6th. He took one of the in the 5th. Was a kicker. So he took the kicker at 159. Okay, Fromm went at 167. So you take the kicker over Fromm. You made 3 third-round picks over Jacob Eason. So maybe they wanted to wait an extra round, but didn't work. They could have had Hurts in the 2nd, took the safety from Lenore Ryan. So I guess he was waiting an extra round. It didn't work out that way. So we'll see. I mean, obviously Jarrett Stidham seems to be a guy they got a lot of confidence in, and we'll see. Like I said, taking care of the football. Like I say, going back to Josh, taking care of the football, I thought it was the running. He did a great job cutting down on the interceptions. He just eliminated interceptions down in those final 11, 12 games, whatever it was. So again, will Stidham be that type of guy now? Will he be able to do for that team that obviously has talent left over? This team isn't going to go away. If Stidham can manage the game properly, he's got the arm. They know him. He knows them now. I don't think that drop-off with New England's going to be dramatic. I don't think they go from the best to the worst. I think this is still going to be a team you got to figure out how to beat. These guys know how to win, and Stidham, it seems like they have an awful lot of confidence in him. So for the Bills, New England, Miami's going to be building for the future. They're not ready. Jets, I don't know if they're ready yet, but they got some personnel, and they got the right people running the show there. I'll tell you what, looking at the quarterbacks in this division, it's going to be a tremendously competitive 4 teams over the next X amount of years with Tua, Josh, and Darnold, and now whatever New England decides to do, Stidham is the guy. And he's a young kid. He just came out of Auburn just a couple years ago. So what a division quarterback-wise this will end up being.
Well, Mel, I hope you've had a chance to catch your breath after this last draft 2020. Now, how long do you have before you start grinding away on the 2021? What are your early thoughts?
Well, already started with that. With the big board came out today, and that's the quarterbacks at the top. Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields are 1 and 3, and a kid out of North Dakota State, Trey Lance, another quarterback at 15. But it's going to be another great wide receiver group, John and Steve. I got 6 receivers in the top 25. Probably would have had 8 in the top 32. So that's a lot of receivers again. It's going to be a good year for tight ends. I think it's going to be a good year for DBs. The 2 corners, Wade from Ohio State and Surtain from Alabama, are up there high. Javon Holland, the safety from Oregon's got 9 career interceptions over the last 2 years. So there's a lot of talent, but I think wide receiver is going to be the big talk early on. 2 Alabama kids this year, 2 Alabama kids in the first round next year.
Hey, Mel, everybody knows Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, but you really were talking up the North Dakota State quarterback, Trey Lance, on ESPN today. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, he's got all the physical and athletic skills you want. He had one, and now it's 1 year. That's why I was a little conservative. I put him in the middle of that 25. I'm like, where should I put him? Around 15. So let's be conservative with that because it's just 1 year. But the 1 year was spectacular. I mean, 28 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Now you might say, well, the level of competition. I don't care who you're playing against. To do that is amazing. For a redshirt freshman, which is what he was, now he'll be a third-year sophomore. He rushed for a ton of yards, 1,100 yards. yards. He had a ton of rushing touchdowns. You watch him. I watched him in 3-4 games, and now the playoffs, he wasn't quite as good there. He was good, not great, but he was great during the regular season. He can throw make any ball you need him to complete. He can complete it. He has touch. He's a tremendous runner. He's a smart kid. Shows good instincts on the field in terms of when to move out of the pocket, when to stay in, when to throw it away. All the little things, the nuances, he has that already. So I don't see any reason why he can't, with another year and putting up those kind of numbers and his skill set, he's going to be right there. He's not going to be as highly rated as Lawrence and Fields, but he'll be the third guy. Tanner Morgan from Minnesota I like as well, and it'll be interesting how Jamie Newman, moving from Georgia to Wake Forest, how he does in that one season with all that talent the Georgia Bulldogs have.
I got to ask you one last thing, and it's about this last draft. What one player in this draft do you think is going to be the guy from this draft? I mean, this year. There may be guys that develop and become great players in the years to come, like maybe Joe Burrow's not going to be great this year, but he certainly has it on the table to be a great quarterback. Who's going to be the impact guy this year? Is it as easy as just saying Chase Young?
I would think, and that's the pass rusher. I think also Clyde Edwards-Helaire, whoever the running back was that went to Kansas City was going to have big numbers. And we knew as a running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire fit them. Talked to some teams after the draft that had him as the number one running back. All those running backs that went in the second round should do very well. But I would think because of Andy Reid in Kansas City and Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire should be in position, if he stays healthy, to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. And Chase Young, with the pass rush ability he has for a team that needs it opposite Sweat, who they drafted in the first round last year. They need Chase Young. And that division with those quarterbacks, with Wentz and Dak, and now an emerging Daniel Jones, they need his pass. So I always say the Rookie of the Year for me, I always give it to the pass rushers on defense and the running backs on offense.
Hey, Mel, thanks for this, and thanks for 36, 37 years of prognosticating the draft on ESPN. It's great work. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
John, Steve, I appreciate it. Anytime you need me, just call. Thanks, guys.